Hello and welcome to a podcast about something. Today we've got a podcast about sustainability. I have got Megan from the Kiss That World podcast with me, and she's going to tell us a little bit about her podcast, and then we're going to have a discussion about sustainability and making the world a better place.
It's the goal. So yeah, I interview environmental experts every week and try and figure out what's important to them, and learn from their stories and connect people that may not have sustainability at the forefront of their mind all the time, like I happen to. I
am one of those people, so you've got your hands full with me.
I have a lot of anxiety about climate change, and that's what I studied in college. And but I understand that other people are interested in other things. So that's what I'm trying to do, is connect people with subjects they may not even know exist, and hear it from the experts and get little tips that people can do every day that are easy, that will potentially save them time and money, and that will help preserve our world for future generations.
Awesome. That is very great, and that information needs to be passed along in whatever way it can be. Like I said, you're going to have your hands full with me today, because I am all about convenience, and if you can turn me even a little, I think you'll have done your job today.
Okay, challenge accepted.
Yeah, so I am not well versed in living a sustainable lifestyle, or sustainability is not in the forefront of my mind as I live my daily life. But you, by doing this, I'm hoping that I can learn something from you, and I'm really excited to learn something from you and to do what I can to help, because it is important. It's just a lot of people are probably like me, where it's easier to do it the way we've always done it than to just take that extra second to think about how we're actually impacting the world. So you've sent me some research that we'll talk about a little bit, and then we'll discuss some things that, the average person can do, some things I can do, and just we'll go from there, and hopefully we help other people learn how to help the world.
Yeah, I hope so. And it's like, you don't have to, jump in with 2 feet. You can take baby steps, and every little thing you do is going to add up. And the more you start thinking about it, unfortunately, the more you will think about it and notice it, and you'll just want to make more changes.
Awesome. So let's dive right in. Like I said, you sent me some research, and the first thing you sent me was all about the zero waste movement. Can you explain a little bit behind that and what that means?
Yeah, absolutely. So zero waste I think the term scares people if they've never heard of it before, and it's actually an industry term. It just means, like, in a factory, you're trying to use up all of the materials and think about the end process of whatever you're building. So it's a full life cycle of every product. And there's a French woman called Bea Johnson, and she is based in California, and she's kind of the pioneer of the zero waste movement. And she just started experimenting and trying to see how much she could reduce her family's waste. And she had 2 kids. I think they were older. They weren't babies, so she didn't have to worry about diapers or anything. But
that'd be tough.
Yeah, for sure. But she got she went way too far. And even she says she's backed off a little bit. But she was to the point where she was going to the forest and getting different mosses to use as toilet paper. And she was like, okay, I have to find a balance between what is convenient and not driving myself crazy. In the end, she found that she still did produce some waste, but the average American produces about 4.5 pounds of trash a day. And she and her family produce a little mason jar of trash. I think that's what they've been doing for 6 years. It's just one mason jar, and it has, fruit stickers and old credit cards and receipts, because they can't be recycled in there. And it's a sliding scale. So there's people who are part of the movement who don't have a little trash jar, and they're like, I still buy ice cream. That's my thing. I'm not going to give it up, but there's a lot of things that you can do that are pretty painless, and and you don't have to sacrifice everything. And I think that's what a lot more of the advocates that have popped up since Bea started this like 10 years ago are saying, you know, trying to make it more inclusive.
Right. Yeah. Just because it would be like like you're saying, I have 2 kids. One of them is still in diapers, and like that would be impossible to go as far, you know, as this woman has gone. But I'm sure there are little things, and we'll get into that a little bit, that, you know, a regular person like me can do at home to help. I was interested, so you sent me one website, was zerowastehome.com. Is that this woman's website?
Yeah, that's Bea's website. Yeah.
Okay. So you sent me that, and I was looking over it, and one of the blog posts on it was about zero waste while traveling. And so I was looking at that because I travel a lot for work, and I thought that would be a really difficult thing to do. And so it talks about just while you're out, you know, refusing to take promotional materials and samples and things like that. And then she kind of hit on to-go food, and I was like, I don't think I can handle that, because that's my whole life when traveling, is like, now with Uber Eats and everything like that, if I can get it delivered to my door, I'm all set. And that I produce a lot of waste probably just that way. So I was interested in how to do it, and then almost immediately turn around of like, I can't not eat takeout food.
Yeah. Well, there's some people that are zero. I mean, it just is more effort, and you have to be willing to ask. So there's another woman, Catherine Kellogg, who blogs about it, and she, in the airport, would, you know, say, can you put, just bring a little metal container with her and go up to the concessions and say, I want that sandwich, but I want it in this container. Mm-hmm. And just being willing to ask people. Sometimes you'll get refused for health code reasons, but sometimes they'll just be like, oh, okay. And with the Uber Eats, I mean, you still have to live your life, but if if you can write a little message and say, like, I don't need a plastic fork, you know, and if you have your own bamboo one, or you can go to the hotel lobby and grab one of the reusables from the metal ones from their restaurant, then you won't create that small piece of plastic. Or you can say, like, no,
right, so
no
it's more
plastic
on cutting
bags.
down the plastic. Yeah.
Yeah, just doing what you can with where you are, because there's certainly some places that it's just not available. I mean, there's whole communities in America that are in food deserts, essentially, and they don't have access to fresh fruit and vegetables. They don't have access to bulk foods. Everything they have is packaged, and it's not healthy, and it doesn't allow them to produce less waste. But that's not the point. The point is to just, you know, try what you can do, and then not stress about what's not happening for you.
Right. I got that. So my other point of contention, and to be fair, I'm playing devil's advocate here a bit, because I do understand what you're saying, but the things that she talks about on her site, and especially traveling, of like refusing promo materials and samples, and, you know, refusing the plastic knives and things like that, to me, it seems like that at that point they've already been created. So how does me refusing them at that point help? The waste is created when the item's created, not when I take it. Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. And then there's, that you could take that in, like, I was just thinking about my boyfriend who eats meat, but only when it's offered to him, because it's already dead. It's already here. Right. So if more people refuse promotional materials, then companies will stop producing so much. If they're not giving them away, if it's not working, they're not going to spend their money to produce the promotional materials. But I hear what you're saying. It already is in the world. But most likely, you're just going to throw it out anyway.
Yeah, I throw a lot of things out, yes.
Yeah. So you're just making them throw it out and making them carry the burden and making them rethink, like, okay, maybe we shouldn't just hand out these weird free plastic things.
Right. Instead of ordering 500, next time maybe they'll order 300, which in the end helps. So what are some other simple steps that my listeners, or just the average person at home, can do to achieve, let's not say zero waste, but limited waste?
For sure. So the really, really easy ones, the low-hanging fruit is like using a reusable water bottle. And not everyone has access to clean drinking water from their tap, but a lot of us do. And there's a lot of refill stations, in airports especially have tons of filtered water refill stations.
Yes,
you can buy a Brita filter or whatever for your fridge, but just having one reusable container and not drinking a single water bottle or 3 water bottles or whatever it is every day, that cuts down on, 300 to 900 water bottles a year just for you. Another thing is your to-go coffee. So a lot of people think that the hot coffee to-go cups are recyclable, but they're not because they're lined with plastic. So if you buy to-go coffee, you can bring your reusable mug, or most places have for here mugs. And you can pretend you're French, grab a for here coffee, or make your own. It's cheaper. You're going to save money. Another thing is packing your own lunch. If you have the time and you're not traveling all the time, you'll save money on eating out all the time, and you can bring your own lunch in Tupperware or glass container, a mason jar. You can reuse old mayonnaise jars, whatever. You can get creative and do that. I have a bamboo cutlery set from To Go Ware that I've had for, 5 years, and I just keep it at my desk during the week, and then I put it in my purse on the weekends. When you're grocery shopping, don't use those creepy little plastic bags that they have for produce. You can get cloth reusable ones. You can make them out of old t-shirts. I am not a good sewer, but it's not that hard. If I can do it, anyone can do it. They also sell them. And you can buy food in bulk. So when you buy food in bulk, you can get as much as you need or as little as you need, and you're not paying for the plastic packaging. It's often way cheaper to buy, say, dried beans than it is to buy individual cans of beans. Right. So that'll cut down a lot too. And shopping your local farmer's market if you have one, or if it's the season for it. Not everyone's lucky enough to have a year-round one, depending on your climate, but then you can support local business, you can meet your farmers, you can eat what's in season, and they usually don't have plastic, or they'll take back, say if you buy berries in a little plastic container, you go next week and you want to buy more berries, they'll take your old container and they'll reuse it for sure. So that's right. Some pretty easy stuff to start out with.
Yeah, that all seems mostly simple. So listeners, go do all of that stuff and you will be a better person. And then, so the other recent thing that happened you're in California, right? Mm-hmm. So the other recent thing is they're on the path to outlawing the, plastic drinking straws. What is your feelings on that?
Oh boy. So the straw has become a really contentious issue. I mean, it's not, to be fair, it's really just the tip of the iceberg. I think Starbucks is replacing the straw with a lid that doesn't have a straw, but you're still getting an entire plastic cup, which is arguably
just probably a lot worse.
More plastic. Yeah, it's just that straws. I used to work at a zoo and we didn't have straws at all because if they get discarded, animals can choke on them. So it really is hazardous to wildlife. So in that vein, I think the real issue is that people with disabilities sometimes can only use a plastic straw because paper can be a choking hazard. Reusable ones like glass and metal can, if you have seizures, they can be dangerous and cut you. And so for a number of reasons, plastic is their only option. And so we don't want to leave people behind in the sustainability movement. That's not the point at all.
Especially disabled people.
Exactly. Yeah, we need everyone's voices. Very nice, so I think what the best option would be is to have an opt-in, and you automatically don't get a straw, because I think most people only use them because they're there. They don't need them. And if you do want one or you do need one, you can ask and someone can provide that for you. But that would cut down on a lot, I think.
Yeah, just after it was announced, I had read an article that said a lot of the things that you just brought up, basically on the opposite side of the spectrum. It was, you might save one turtle's life, but we still use all of this, soda bottles and water bottles, and all of that creates so much more waste than that single straw does. So they made a move that on the surface looks like it's helping, but it's hurting disabled people or people who need straws and can't afford metal and glass straws, or like you said, have severe disabilities where they can't use the metal and glass straws. And so it was just, it was almost more of a PR move than a actual let's fix something move. It's like, we can do this and then we can think about something else down the road.
Yeah, it's just a little tiny, like, throw the bone to the sustainability movement. It doesn't really make that much of a difference. That being said, I did have a guest on who works in Baja, Mexico, and he said that he noticed a significant difference after we banned the plastic bag. I think it was 2 years ago in California. He noticed a significant reduction in plastic bags that were washing up on the beach in Baja. So it can make a difference. But yeah, it is one small part of the entire plastic spectrum, and plastic never degrades or never biodegrades. It just degrades, which means it breaks up into smaller and smaller pieces, and it just lasts forever. So every piece of plastic we've ever made still exists. And
Right.
if we continue to produce it, we're just going to end up with mountains. You know, we can't ignore this. You can see the problem. We know it's there. It's affecting wildlife. It's on our beaches. So we have to take, yeah, you're right. It's not enough.
Right. The other thing that you sent me was a link to a video from theatlantic.com that was titled "Environmental Racism is the New Jim Crow." Do you want to explain that a little bit? I watched the video, but for the listeners who haven't, and I'll link to it when this posts and everything. Yeah,
I thought it was a really succinct video, and I'm definitely not an expert in environmental racism, but everything is interrelated. You know, people of color, if you think about where there's oil spills, or in Flint, Michigan, where there was the toxic water, the lead water in
Right.
water pipes, that was not an affluent neighborhood.
It's still there.
Yeah, it's still happening. We haven't fixed it.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about, I mean, here in California, we have oil. On my commute to and from work, I see oil derricks, and the people that live in those neighborhoods are people of color. When we talk about putting in a dump, it's not going to be in Beverly Hills. So we're treating poor people of color, less than rich white people, because the rich white people can, you know, throw money at it or raise a bigger stink or whatever it is. If you can imagine, yeah, just building a dump or building something that would be an eyesore or an environmental hazard, we would not put it in the middle of a rich neighborhood. We would put it in the middle of a poor neighborhood. And it's just one part of the problem, the racism, the pervasive racism problem that we've built into society in America.
Pretty much everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, and part of it, detractors from that would probably say, you know, they put it where they can because of zoning laws and everything like that. But the zoning laws, who are created mostly by rich white people, are set up so that these things will get placed near, you know, poor neighborhoods. And it's just kind of the way that the world is, that those poor neighborhoods are usually housed by Black and Hispanic people. And that's not fair to them, and it's not fair, but, you know, it's the way the world is, and that's something that could be worked on, and more than just, you know, being environmentally safe. It should be worked on in many other aspects. Like that shouldn't be the case where the poorer neighborhoods are always made up of Blacks and Hispanics and minorities. It should be, I guess, more spread out. I don't know.
Yeah, well, maybe we can have a future where we don't have like severe poverty and people can have, you know,
that would be
a
nice.
dignified workplace and a significant, or, you know, a guaranteed meal, and yeah, for sure. And if you think about the natural disasters we've had, Hurricane Katrina affected, they're still rebuilding from it.
That was one of the things they mentioned in the video, is that Hurricane Katrina, basically these poor neighborhoods are built in flood zones.
Yeah.
And so they have no choice. So something like Hurricane Katrina or Harvey, or where I live in Florida, Irma last year, they wipe out those neighborhoods because it's just flooded and it doesn't go anywhere. I remember after Irma driving around, and I could see these poor neighborhoods, you know, a week or two after most things had dried up, were still halfway underwater. And there's nothing the people that live there can do about it.
No, they don't have the resources to rebuild quickly, or maybe at all.
Well, and they can't rebuild when it's still underwater too.
Right, yeah, right. And
Yeah.
it's just going to be, I think, natural disasters are, you had 3 hurricanes last year, didn't you? Or did they not all make it to Florida?
I think we had 2 that actually hit us, because one hit on the west. I'm on the west coast of Florida, and then one hit the east coast, and then Harvey hit in Texas. But yeah, so and they're not going anywhere, because as you kind of talked about in the beginning, is climate change is causing worse and worse storms every year. So as climate change continues to be an issue that people don't want to address, it's, we're going to keep having these things. And if this year we don't get hit in a bad hurricane season, which so far it looks like is not going to happen, everybody's going to be like, oh, it was just a fluke. It's fine. We don't have to do anything. And in 5 years, we're going to have something even worse.
Yeah, it's really scary. And unfortunately, it's the countries that have contributed the least to climate change. They've put out the least amount of carbon emissions, and they're not industrialized. They're the low-lying islands, and they are not high above sea level, and they're the ones that are going to be affected first. So it's more developing nations. Mm-hmm. It's like a global environmental racism situation.
Well, yeah, and even somewhere like Puerto Rico that is still not completely rebuilt, and is, hurricane season's just around the corner again. That's not going to be a nice place to live for the next 2 months.
Yeah, God, I can't imagine those poor people.
Okay, that's enough sadness. Let's talk about something hopeful of so when what do you say to people whose opinion is, well, it doesn't matter because I'm just one person and I would rather live my life inconvenience, since whatever I do is not, I'm just one person, it's not going to make a difference anyways. How do you approach that argument? Because I'm kind of one of those people, so maybe you can convince me.
For sure. Well, if you drink a plastic water bottle every day of the year, that's 365 water bottles a year that you save throughout your lifetime, that's a mountain of water bottles that are going to last forever, that you're saving, that you're not producing if you just use a reusable. If you use a plastic fork every day, it's the same thing. It does add up. Your impact is not in a bubble. It affects other people. And if you start, bringing a water bottle to work, your coworkers are going to notice. They're going to ask you about it. You have kids, and I know that you care about convenience, but I'm sure that you want them to have the experiences in nature that you've had. Maybe you love to go to the beach. You're in Florida. I'm sure there's plenty of freshwater lakes that you go to, or the ocean, or maybe the bayou, what do you call that? Yeah, and you want to share that with, you want to share that.
Yeah, the Gulf is a mess right now, so we can't go to the beach here.
Well, see,
it's a whole different issue. Yeah. Yep.
So I think the problem is that we're trying to talk to everybody the same way, and what we need to do is connect on an individual level and say, well, what do you care about? And what do you want to protect? What are you willing to fight for? Because if you don't really care about plastic in the ocean, or you'd rather just have a single-use water bottle, then you're not going to make the effort. It's like you're not going to go on the diet until you care about it. You're not going to go to the gym until you're the one motivating yourself. So think about what you care about, what you enjoy here on the planet, what you'd want to share with your loved ones, your kids, and your favorite animals, and start maybe using that as the jumping off place for how you can start to make changes.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And like you said, that's a much better argument than let's just throw everything at me and hope I absorb it all and do everything. Turn from a lot of waste that I am now into automatically zero waste. That approach is never going to work with most people. I mean, it'll work with some people, but trying to turn someone like me, who creates a lot of waste, admittedly, into full on 100% zero waste, that's not going to work. But the way you said it, of just find what you care about and approach it that way, that will work. Because like you were just talking about, we can't take our kids to the beach right now because of the, I think it's the red tide that's coming in the Gulf. Like we can't do anything about it, and we just have to wait until it gets cleaned up. And that was created by, non-environmentally friendly practices going on in the area. So we just kind of have to wait. And, so that is something that, I'll probably do some research on and figure out what average people can do to prevent that in the future, because we like taking our kids to the beach, and it kind of sucks that we can't go.
Yeah. I wonder if it's from fertilizer runoff from farms, because that often creates... I believe
that's what it is. I think so. There's a big lake in the middle of Florida that's Lake Okeechobee, that I think that's what happened there, is they got a bunch of fertilizer runoff in there, and then to try and alleviate that, they let it out, basically through the river systems and back into the ocean and into the Gulf, and now it's created all these problems in the Gulf.
Yeah, and that's the chain of events. When you put chemicals on your lawn and you water your lawn, it rains, those chemicals run off into the storm drain, and then they run into the ocean, and they can cause the same problem. So your effects do have a connection downwind of you, whether you're cognizant of it or not. But yeah, that's a bummer.
Yeah. And so another thing is I worked for you're talking about runoff. I worked for a concrete production company, a ready mix company. And, so there's a ton of runoff, but the way our, the laws in Florida are written is we have to manage all of that and make sure everything's running off into a retention pond, basically. And, they get environmental checks. The plants get environmental checks every month to make sure everything is up to date and those retention ponds are doing what they're supposed to, just to, like you said, try and alleviate some of that runoff. So, the only thing that we can't stop is like on a rainy day and the trucks are wet and they go out of the plant and pull some of it with them. But as far as in the plant, everything is set up in a way that everything drains into these retention ponds, so nothing gets out that we can't control.
Yeah. And I mean, even doing, everything right and doing the best you can, like, things happen. Right. And that's on an individual level too. You can try as hard as you can, but you're never gonna be perfect. So it's just like let go of that and just try a little bit.
So last thing is that we'll leave with is, what can the average person do to be tomorrow? What can they do to be more environmentally friendly and help the sustainability of the earth?
So if you, get your reusable water bottle, pack your lunch, make your own coffee and bring your own mug, maybe go for a walk in nature. And if you see some trash on your walk, pick it up and put it in the garbage. Because when you see something like that and you walk by it and you're like, oh, someone should do something about that, like, you're somebody, we all have the power to make a difference. And you never know who you're going to affect. The person standing behind you at the coffee shop might be like, oh, wow, that guy brought his own container. That's really cool. Or see you picking up garbage at the beach. Maybe it's a fun thing that you can do with your family, and you're going to inspire someone just sitting there with their umbrella you don't even know. And you just have no idea how your actions are going to spread out, and might as well make it a positive ripple effect.
Awesome. Well, you have given me a lot to think about, and I have learned a lot from this conversation, so I appreciate you joining me for this. Do you want to give any plugs to your podcast, website, anything like that before we sign off for the day?
Yeah, sure. If anyone's interested about learning more about sustainability, I actually have an episode with a woman from Florida who does education on the aquifer system. And her name is Jennifer Adler. I can send you that one specifically, but my podcast is Kiss That World, and website is kissthatworld.com, and I'm on all the socials, so you can find me there.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. Had a great time, and I learned something, and I hope the listeners did too.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
And now it's time for the 2-minute ISO.
To start off here by apologizing for the audio. I'm on the road today and recording in the car, so might have to redo this if it doesn't turn out good, but I'll try to do the best I can with editing so I don't have to re-record. I want to talk today about the new Oscar category of Best Popular Film, or whatever they're calling it. I was trying to stay away from this topic, but I've been reading a lot of things and listening to a lot of things, and now I feel like I have a fully formed opinion on it, so I want to talk about it. So they've got the new category, which is Best Popular Film, to kind of go hand in hand with the Best Picture category. Basically to give movies like The Dark Knight, Toy Story 3, more recently this year we'd be looking at Avengers Infinity War and Black Panther, kind of their shine on the Oscars. And I get kind of why the Oscars would do this, because they're bleeding ratings right now, and it's been hard for them to keep viewers, so they want to bring viewers in by showing, giving awards to movies people have actually seen. Having said that, to me personally, it feels like it's a response to Black Panther and a way basically to not nominate Black Panther for a Best Picture award. To me, Black Panther is a better film than Avengers Infinity War. It delivers a message in a better way than Avengers Infinity War. Avengers Infinity War is this culmination of 10 years of work by the MCU, and is a great movie, but as a standalone film, it would not hold up as well as if you took the plot of Black Panther outside of the MCU and told that story with different characters, it would still hold up. If you did so with Infinity War, you would have a hard time making a movie that makes sense. I love both movies, but the new category seems like more of a response directly to Black Panther than something like Infinity War or any of the other MCU movies over the years, or something like The Hangover even, where, you get all this popular opinion that says it's great, but the Academy's not going to recognize it at all. So what I mean by it's a response to Black Panther is that it feels like they don't want to nominate Black Panther for Best Picture, so they're going the opposite way and creating a new category so they can give Black Panther an award without having to give it the Black Panther award, without having to give it the Best Picture award, which is kind of sketchy to me. If Black Panther was up for Best Picture, it would get my vote. Some of these other movies that we haven't, there will be a lot of movies in the next few months that are Oscar bait movies, so we'll see more of that coming. But if you put it against last year's movies of, The Shape of Water and 3 Billboards in Missouri and those kind of movies, Black Panther is a better film. Not just because it's more exciting and action-packed, it's more interesting. The plot between Eric Killmonger and T'Challa is more interesting, even if you take their superpowers away. Eric Killmonger returning home to claim his birthright and to share the power and knowledge of his country, not share it with the world, but basically, overturn their oppressors, is very prescient at this time and deserves to be noted on a grand scale, and not just this is a superhero movie about Black Power, because that's not what it is. I mean, it's partly that, but it does more, and it tells a more emotional story of Eric Killmonger trying to get to where he's going, and the reasons why he's getting to where he's going. It feels, I was listening to something that, they listed some Oscar winners, and Gladiator was the Oscar winner in 2000. Black Panther feels very much like Gladiator did. It's kind of the same kind of movie. Somebody reclaiming if you look at it from Eric Killmonger's point of view, it's the same movie. He's fighting his way to reclaim his birthright, with these visions and dreams of his murdered family. Now, Gladiator hits a lot different notes than Black Panther does, but it's the basis for it from Eric Killmonger's point of view is very similar. And, T'Challa is not nearly the same as Joaquin Phoenix's Emperor character, but you can see parallels between those two movies, so it would be interesting if Black Panther were either not, you know, an MCU movie or were made in a different time, if it would be up for Best Picture, as it should be. To me, building this new category of most popular or best popular movie, you're just going to take the biggest box office, which this year is going to be Avengers: Infinity War, and honestly, that movie shouldn't even win that category. Black Panther should. So it feels like they're making this response to Black Panther, and then they're going to eschew Black Panther even from that because Infinity War is going to, if you're looking at box office, Infinity War has the highest box office. And that's the way it is with the MCU. But to me, if you're gonna give 3 6 Mafia an Academy Award, I think you can make space to give the guys behind Black Panther an Academy Award. Ryan Coogler was tremendous directing this movie. Everything that happened on the astral plane there, I know they call it something else, but I can't think of the word off the top of my head. And like I said, I'm in the car, so I can't look it up. But everything they did in the astral plane was beautiful, or ancestral plane, that's what they call it. Everything in the ancestral plane was shot beautifully and just looked amazing. The story holds ground, and like I said, I think if it were not placed if it weren't framed as a superhero movie, you would see it get a lot more love, from critics, you know, people who make up the Academy. And it's just not getting that because it's associated with the MCU, and that's not fair to this beautifully crafted movie. That's my take on the new category. I think it came out at a bad time. Like, the thought of it came at a bad time because it looks like, on the surface, it's a response to the success of Black Panther and, you know, these old curmudgeonly Academy voters who don't want to vote for a movie like Black Panther, so they said, okay, we need a different way to get Black Panther in there, so they created something new. If they'd have come up with this category 2-3 years ago, I'd probably have a different opinion on it. If they came up with it, it just seems like it's a response to Black Panther, and I don't think it's a correct response to Black Panther if it's framed that way. Because Black Panther should be up for Best Picture. It's that good of a movie, it's that good of a story, and if it weren't framed with superheroes, it probably would be. As we saw with Gladiator, which is very much the same type of story. So those are my thoughts on the new category. Make sure if you're listening on iTunes that you subscribe and rate and review, and check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/podcastaboutSomething. There are some different tiers there that you can donate to if you want to support the show and help us keep it going. And then, you can follow us on Twitter at APASomething. And you can always send emails to apodcastaboutsomething@gmail.com. Stay classy.